Hey, I'm Niki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to another book haul. It's getting a bit excessive at this point. I have 2 book hauls, I think, that you haven't seen yet on the channel, and it's not like I'm filming them back to back. Like, a couple months goes by between each one, but I had so many there that airing once a month, we're a bit behind. Curating my shelves is one of my favorite parts about being a book lover, and I've seen some memes that are totally applicable. Book buying and book reading are 2 completely separate hobbies, and I get full enjoyment out of both. And I gotta say, with the lineup I have this time around, I think I'm getting a lot better at being really particular on the titles that I'm curating for my shelves. The overhaul challenge that I'm running is helping out a great deal on that, because everything that I bring in, I'm like, am I going to want to read this right away? Because if not, maybe I should hold off on buying it. Per usual, it's alphabetical by author's last name. Totally arbitrary, but I like having some sense of order. First up, An Autumn War by Daniel Abraham, a hardcover edition. Now, it's an ex-library edition, which I don't usually curate, but I am having the most difficult time finding this series in non-book club editions. Like, this is a unicorn here, because I have ordered at least 5 or 6 different titles where I have checked with the sellers beforehand to make sure it's the right size, and it always inevitably ends up as the smaller one. So anyway, the fact that I have a standard size edition means I will gladly hang on to a library copy as a placeholder until I can curate a slightly nicer edition. Anyway, thank you Solus Librum for having one. On Pango Books, I snagged a relatively new copy of Dragons of Deepwood Fen with a signed bookplate by Bradley Beaulieu. I know that's not the right way to say his name. I'm not the biggest fan of this author, but I love his creativity enough that I would like to try more things by him. I did not like his Winds of Kalikovo book, and I started the Shattered Sand series, and it was just okay. So I'm gonna go back and try that one again and read a little bit further. But, you know, this one might be a good place to jump in again when I'm feeling inclined. It's a dragon book. Of course I want to read it. One of my new prized possessions, The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the broken binding edition, which I woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning to get a copy of this. Yeah, it's a signed edition, and the Foundry Side trilogy, at least the first book, was one of my all-time favorite reads. I loved that first book. The second book I kind of hated, and the third book was just okay, but I know he can dazzle me, and the concept for this book I just think is amazing. So I'm really excited to read this one, and having a nice pretty edition for my shelves will definitely help me get to it sooner than later. For Project Read Burn Horde, I read Spellwright by Blake Carlton and ordered Spellbound book 2 in the series. I had book 3 and book 1, but not book 2. And lo and behold, this is a beautiful edition, and it's signed. Whoever sold it was not aware that it was signed. I think I got it off of Amazon. And so, yeah, beautiful signed edition of the second book. I love this cover. This is one of those that I started for a project and then just haven't made time to get back to, but it's totally worth getting back to. It's like academic setting, this like beautiful setting. Really cool magics, fun stuff, like these gargoyle things are really cool, and a lot of action, adventure, fun characters. The main spellcaster is dyslexic, and so that of course affects his ability to read and perform spells, which are really heavily based on the written word. Cool concept. I need to prioritize getting around to this one because I'm on the verge of having to reread the first one before continuing, which is something that I've been working really hard to get back to series in a reasonable time frame because I'm wasting a lot of time rereading. Speaking of, I have Invader and Inheritor, book 2 and 3 in the Foreigner trilogy. Now, the series goes on and on beyond that, but the initial set was a trilogy. I've been slowly curating the series. I didn't love the first book when I read it, but I've read a lot more sci-fi now, and so I'm thinking that I would like to give it another try. And, oh, man, I could end up reading it again, absolutely hating it, and then ending up selling all of these on Pango, but my hope is that I'll like it the second time around more. I'm also intending, I only made it to like 50 pages before the end of the first book before I set it down, which is kind of harsh, but I'm hoping to at least read through the second book and see if things get better in there, because it's a series that I would really like to want to read. It promises a lot of alien creation and political intrigue, and I love the politics in space books, so yeah, I'm gonna try it again. But as far as creature creation and favorite sci-fi authors, I love Julie Chernita, To Each This World. I bought this one because I nominated it for Patreon Book Club. It didn't win, but I'm hoping it'll get picked for another project that I have coming up. And otherwise, I'll just probably drop everything and read it. I think it's a standalone, and it's one of the few books by this author that I haven't read yet, and I absolutely love her. Really witty. She's got some great, like, dry humor. Genoveva. I got an advance copy from Tor of Foul Days by Genoveva Dimova. It's being advertised as witches, kind of a urban fantasy set in the Slavic culture. And in my mind, there's a big distinction between urban fantasy and low fantasy. For example, I think Jade City is a low fantasy representation, whereas Jim Butcher is very obviously an urban fantasy. So I think this is probably more a low fantasy book, based on my own arbitrary assignments of where things go, logically, whatever. But the tagline is, The Witcher meets Naomi Novik in this fast-paced fantasy, rooted in Slavic folklore, from an assured new voice. Though I'm really excited for this one. It comes out, I think, sometime in June. And it's one of the few arcs that I've requested that I've actually built into my reading schedule. And I'm not just casually maybe I'll get around to it. No, I am very excited for this one. It's a duology, and the second book comes out sometime in October. So if you decide to pick this one up, you can read the whole series this year. I'm hoping it's as good as I think it'll be. And I've got this beautiful little book, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This seems right up my alley. I love things that are written with an academic overtone. And so if it's this person chronicling them discovering more fairies in gardens, that's what I'm picturing it's going to be. I think it's going to be great. I love the memoirs of Lady Trent, and I love people who are really passionate about a certain field. I don't even care what it is. I'd really gravitate towards people who know what they love and chase it with wild abandon. And so that is what I'm hoping to find out of this book. This is the UK edition. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm really excited to read this one. Sequel to Engines of Empire, I have Engines of Chaos by R.S. Ford. This is a series that I'm hoping to get to eventually, but I'm collecting them thinking that I'm probably going to like it. I've heard some good things on BookTube about it, but I probably would have bought it anyway just because it just seems right up my alley. So adding that to the collection, I have no idea how many books are planned in the series, but I'll probably start it after maybe book 3 comes out. And then I have book 2 and 3 in the Black Iron Legacy by Gareth Hanrahan. Shadow Saint, which I just finished reading yesterday, and then The Broken God, the third book. Now, it's funny, the first 2 were available on audio, the third one is only available in print and ebook, so I'm reading this one. This is such a cool series so far. Very unconventional, kind of hard to follow in places. I don't know, my patron Sonia and I have been reading this one, and we find it's just on the edge of being so confusing that you feel lost, but you somehow manage to at least keep the main plots of the story straight in your head, and it's a cool journey. I love the voice this is told in. I especially like the creativity surrounding it. There are so many wild things going on by the end of the second book that I don't know what to expect in this third one, but I have very high hopes. Now, the first one was probably my favorite so far because the novelty of all the new things that we were getting introduced to, by this time you hit the second book, all that has faded a bit, and it's just oh, cool, yeah, of course, people turn to stone. It's just a thing. It's really cool. A lot of moving parts, and I can't wait to finish the series. It's a high priority. I'm slowly building up my hardcover collection of Emily Henry's books. They're not part of a series necessarily, but they're all in the same vein type of story, and all the covers look similar, but I have not read this one yet. I've read Book Lovers and Beach Read, and I hear those are kind of 2 of the best ones. I loved the snot out of those books. So even if these aren't quite as good, I'm still up for that same kind of very witty writing style and excellent character inclusion, side characters that you feel deeply about. And it's not even about the love story. That's a prominent thing in the book. But the most interesting thing to me is how she builds relationships with other people in the story as well. I love this woman's writing. So I can't wait to read this one. I finally got myself a copy of The Book That Wouldn't Burn. I went overseas for it because I missed out on the boat of the ones available here in the US. So yes, I've been really wanting to give this book a try. I like the author's ideas and storytelling. I've had a couple of hits and misses, but I'm hoping overall that I mean, the whole idea for this series sounds right up my alley. A library? Like a magical library? Sign me up. So yes, now I finally have a good copy. Yeah, lately I've been buying placeholders for a lot of series that I know I'd like to read eventually. Like, both to support the author, but also to not have to go curate each book for $100+ later once I decide I like it. Like, I'd rather pay retail now and then look at selling it later if I don't like it. So it's kind of where I'm at with my book buying process. It's expensive, but I feel like it's a good investment. So to that end, based on some rave recommendations by Ben at Books with Bengus Khan, I bought the Daughter of Red Winter trilogy by Ed McDonald. And I'm really excited. These are the broken binding editions, so I think they're signed and numbered. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But he was saying that this gives you very Robin Hobb storytelling type of vibes, and so I'm all for that. And I read the excerpt, the description of what the story was about, and I thought that this just seems right up my alley. So I'm hoping to actually start that series by the end of the year. I think I'm really going to enjoy it. And I've heard really good things about Ed McDonald, like a really edgy writer and really good at creating profound moments in books. So looking forward to those. I have this beautiful broken binding edition of Perdido Street Station by Chaya Melville. It's hard to see, but it is signed by the author. Now, this is classic sci-fi that I have not read yet. And in fact, I've heard the title for years and I've heard people recommending it for years. And when I heard Perdido Street Station, I was thinking it was one of those classic mysteries set around a train station, not a space station. So when the cover for this one came out, I'm like, oh, that's why it's listed as sci-fi. Whatever, I feel like it's an easy mistake to make. But I've been really enjoying a lot of popular classic sci-fi, so I think this one will be right up my alley. Not that this is technically classic. This is probably considered more modern, especially since the author is still kicking. But I feel like as kind of a new staple in the genre, it's one I would like to get to eventually, and a beautiful addition to boot. I picked up a signed copy of Narrow Road Between Desires by Patrick Rothfuss. I am so exhausted about speculation on this series. I loved the first two. I'm really excited to see where the story goes, but I'm so over it. So if a third one ever does become published, then I will read this. I'll probably go back and reread the first two books to continue on with the rest of it, but yeah, whatever. You do you, Rothfuss. My besties got me the Minalima version of Harry Potter, which, if you don't know, they're like interactive. Like, they've got some pop-up elements and some papers that you pull out, and it's just a really cool thing. I haven't flipped through them too much because they look so cool that I think it would be really fun to read through with my kids for the first time and do all the interactive stuff together. But yeah, now I have the third one for my collection, which is so cool. So I'm gradually just gonna keep getting these as they come out, hopefully. So this is something that I'm not actively reading or going through, but I'm hoping one day, like, it'll be a really cool experience. So, but see, that's the thing. Which version do I share with my kids first? Because I also have the illustrated editions, and then I have the classic ones, being all the nostalgia. Like, should I just start with those? Like, I'm really not sure. But I have 3 kids, so maybe I'll pick one for each child. I have Lock In and Head On by John Scalzi. I was planning on reading Lock In as a buddy read, and I saw a signed edition on Pango that was not too terribly expensive. So I bought it on a whim, got the second one as well, and lo and behold, I really liked the first book. Like, I probably wouldn't pay a premium, but like the $10 I spent on this edition, like, awesome. I really enjoyed it. It's like a post-pandemic situation where it has killed a lot of people, obviously, but left a few locked in where their brains are still functional, but their bodies are frozen. And like, imagine if that happened, the technologies we would involve to give these people a sense of mobility through androids or whatever. And so take one of those locked in people who now have mobility and give them a crime to solve. That's where we're at. I thought it was really creative. Well done. Classic Scalzi with some snarky remarks and some really interesting things. Like the first one, and I have plans to work this into my schedule soon for the second one, because, yeah, fun story. I think, other than Red Shirts and maybe one other, I've read everything Scalzi has on the market. So consider me a fan. I have books 2 and 3 of the Sherwood Smith Rise of the Alliance series. So the first book is called A Sword Named Truth, and it's trad published, and I thought it was a continuation of the Inda series, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my high priority to read list. And so I thought, shoot, these other hardcovers that are coming out in the series are kind of out of print. I must snag them before they get too far gone. Now, this one is like a teeny tiny little fraction of the size of the book, and then book 3 is a little bit bigger, but obviously these ones have been self-published after the fact. So I don't know what happened, but I'm glad that at least the story is being told. I need to get a hold of a 4th book. But this is one of those authors where I'm kind of hedging my bet. I'm assuming I'm really going to like them, so I'm trying to collect everything ahead of time. And for self-pub, like, those are really heavy. Okay, I'm really excited about these. So this is the signed sprayed edges blue edition of The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. It's the Drowning Empire series, and it's the Fairy Loot edition. It's got like artwork on the inside or whatever. Now, this is one of those series where I've stalled on buying because I really didn't like the color schemes of the initial hardcovers. Ta-da! And I am not sure if I'm going to like the series or not. I'm worried it's going to read a little young. I mean, the art on the inside doesn't help with that at all, but the animal companions, I'll take that. So anyway, I found these editions. I love blue, and I thought, cool. I saved up and bought them, and it's one of those things where I'm really hoping I like the series more than I think I will. But if I don't, then at least I have cool copies of them. I am very, very happy with this purchase. Okay, 4 to go. We've got Trials of Empire by Richard Swan. Tyranny of Faith, book 2, was my favorite read of the year. I absolutely love that one. The first book was kind of weird. Like, I wouldn't write home about it, but I enjoyed it well enough to read the second one. And the second one was so good that I'm worried this one won't hold up to expectation. But I have just started it today. I'm really excited. My patron Sonia and I are reading it, and I love the covers. I can't wait to see how it ends, but I'm nervous. It's got a lot of hopes and dreams writing on it, okay? Tor sent me The Book of Ilrain by Martha Wells. It's got a 2-in-1, The Element of Fire and Death of a Necromancer. This is a massive bind-up. It's like 800 pages of really tiny print in a trade paper format. Like, that doesn't look like 800 pages. But I'm like, what did I do to myself? I really need to stop signing up for random arcs because I'm trying to read this one, but I'm just not into it. But I've got I usually try to push myself through obligation reads because, like, I don't know, I want to be dependable, right? But I'm not into it. I've got at least 700 pages to go. Mistakes were made. There's also an element, I probably would be enjoying it more had I picked it up on my own, but the fact that I have to read it, and I'm telling myself I have to read it, but I'm probably going to put it down, but it just changes the whole reading experience for me. So I think the moral of the story is, aside from those random, really exciting ones like Foul Days, I need to stop requesting arcs. This is the author's preferred edition of some of her first works that she wrote back in the 90s, and they have now put it in the same world as the Wizard Hunters trilogy. That used to stand alone, but now these are 2 books that are kind of in the same world before that one. I think the Wizard Hunters trilogy is actually called The Fall of Ilrain. So all the same stuff, and really that's the one I wanted to read it, but I'm a completionist, so I thought, well, I should probably read these first. I may not. We'll see. My sense of completionism and obligation might kick in, but I need a break from it. My beautiful hardcover of House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky came in. This is not signed or any special edition or anything, but I just love this man's works, and so I'm committed to collecting all of the hardcovers that I can. City of Last Chances got picked for Patreon Book Club, so really excited to read that one, see if I like it. And then I hear this is not a book 2, this is more of a companion novel, which makes me nervous. Like, I would rather sequels than stuff set in the same world but far enough aside that it could be considered a companion, because I'm already invested in what's happened in one of the books. I don't really want to start over in a second one. So that's kind of how I feel about companion novels in general. But it's Tchaikovsky, so it'll probably be good. And then finally, sent by Tor, Stations of the Tide by Michael Swanwick. This is part of Tor Essentials. I guess they're taking like older sci-fi classics and republishing them. So this is by no means a new title, but it has a new edition. And it was small enough that I thought, oh, I could work that into my schedule. But again, an obligation read. But I'm hoping this gets picked up for a sci-fi project that I'm doing soon. But what got me is it's set on a marine world. And it's kind of a mystery with a lot of cool world building elements. All of the reviews that I read online, at least a vast majority of them, said it was a frickin' weird book, so I'm braced. But a lot of them said it was really weird, but at least it was short, so I got through it quickly. But again, did I really need to request this? Probably not. I need to look at my life choices. But I'm hoping it will be good. So there we have it. Look at them all. Aren't they gorgeous? It was a lot of cool books. I keep wondering why my progress in Read, Burn, Hoard isn't going as smoothly as I think it should. It's a video series I have where I pick one shelf and spend the entire month kind of curating it, trying to figure out whether I'm going to keep the books, burn the books, read the books, whatever. Over the couple years I've been doing it, I've gotten rid of so many titles, but I still don't have any room. It's because I keep doing this kind of crap where I'm buying a whole bunch of stuff. But slowly the quality of books I have in my unread section have gotten better and better. I'm just really excited to read most of the things I have now. So I'm making it worse, but I'm also making it better. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this one. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you next time.